All right. Hey, everyone. How's it going? Everybody awake? I'll try and do the reverse of Matt and not depress you. So, you can't hear me, Red? Really? Oh. Closer to the mic. Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now? There we go. All right, so I will try and do the opposite and not depress you with Matt, or follow up Matt Haller, but so everyone just repeat after me. One fat hen.
One fat hen.
One fat hen, a couple of duck.
Couple of what?
One fat hen, a couple of duck, 3 brown bear.
One fat hen, a couple of duck, and 3 brown bear.
Yeah, Red's playing this, we're drinking all day. It's a drinking game that we played on Thursday. Anyways, there's 13 steps, but we're not going to go through them all. So one more thing. Okay, let's get some energy in the room. Everyone stand. A little bit of Simon Says.
Okay.
Simon Says, touch your head. Simon Says, pull your right earlobe. Simon Says, put your left hand on your nose. Simon Says, lift up your left leg. I didn't say take your hand off you're out. Okay, lift up your left leg. Now hop and spell Hatzitheodosiou. All right, sit down.
Time to not say.
Can't do that. You probably can, Ryan. All right, welcome everyone to our technology session. We've got an amazing session for the next hour. My name is Dean Hatzitheodosiou, HTeaO, Chief Sales Officer for Franchise Supplier Network. So as the title indicates, we're reviewing how to leverage technology to strategically grow your business and dominate your market. We have some amazing panelists joining us today, people that have been part of the franchise community for a long time, have grown their brands, and have found amazing success. So before we continue, let me introduce you first to Jonathan. Go ahead, give us your name, where you live, full address, your sign, everything that everybody wants to know. Your social.
All right, my name is Jonathan Barnett. I'm the CEO and founder of OxyFresh. Started it in 2006 with my student loan money, going to college at Calder Christian, playing basketball. And I didn't dream of being a carpet cleaner growing up, but studied franchising a little bit in college, and I loved the business model. But for those of you guys out there, OxyFresh was started so that my dream at the time was to go overseas and play basketball on these outreach trips and work with kids. And so it forced me to start a call center. And that call center has been the heart of our business. It allows our franchisees to work on their business, not in it. It forced me to make the marketing turnkey. And then a lot of my basketball friends wanted to own franchises. So that's kind of how it started. But overall, franchising has been a big family for me. I remember in San Diego in 2007 going to the first IFA conference and going to one of these parties and just being like meeting all these people like yourselves, and you guys were my heroes at the time. And so I love to give back and share how we've become a carpet cleaning company, a technology company that cleans carpet. So cool. Can't wait to share what we got going and hear from you guys.
My name's Andrew Hawes. I'm the Chief Development Officer at HTeaO. We're an emerging iced tea franchise based out of Fort Worth, Texas. Been almost in franchising now for a decade with a few other brands. Started with HTeaO. We launched our franchise opportunity in 2018, so just over 5 years now, which has been incredible. It's definitely a fun atmosphere, a great industry for me. I kind of found my calling back in 2014, working with a different brand, and noticed that this was kind of my niche. I love the entrepreneurial spirit of franchising, be able to give back and really empower all of our franchisees, and be kind of their support system or safety net, as I tell them. So it's been very exciting.
All right. I'm Ashley Mitchell, so I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing for Streamline brands. So we're the largest operator and franchisor of swim schools. So we currently have 8 swim schools in our portfolio: Safe Splash Swim Lab, Swimtastic, Safety Swim, Miller Swim School, Ripple Swim School, AquaSafe, and AquaKids. We have about 250 locations in 38 states and Mexico and Turkey. No, I don't go visit the one in Turkey. That's the number one question. They're more of a licensee, and I don't get to go there, unfortunately. I've been in franchising since 2014, all with child enrichment franchises.
Hi, I'm Chris Pena. I'm one of the original partners and president of Body 20. We have been franchising since 2018, in business since 2017. And little kind of overview of the brand is we are an EMS training concept. We use a medical device to train you every day. We send the same signal your brain does to your muscles to tell them to move. 294 locations sold and just over 80 open or in pre-sale right now.
Very cool. Thank you. So, technology, this is official, Wikipedia, Google search, because everything on the internet is true, but technology is defined as the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry. Boring. Technology adoption is defined as the process by which people and organizations accept and use technology and adapt to improve their performance and advance their organization. Those are official definitions. But in franchising, technology is defined as the application of some tool that I don't understand that may help me and my business that franchisees are going to push back on, and I get to pay a lot of money for it.
Yes.
Technology adoption in franchising is defined as waiting 9 months before a decision is made on if we need something, then spending a bunch of time on investigation to buy some tool that I don't understand, that may help me, that my franchisees are going to push back on my business, and I get to pay a lot of money for it. At least that's how it was. So hopefully today, it's not going to be like that. So, quick show of hands. Who's ever heard of technology profiles? Nobody? Wow. There's 5 of them. There's innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. So we're pretty straightforward. Innovators, love new technology, willing to take risks, not afraid to fail, and they try again. Early adopters love new technology, they do their own research, they're willing to try new technology but want to understand it first, worried about damage to reputation, their own or their business. Early majority is a logical approach to technology. They need proof of its effectiveness, data-driven decision-making, practical use cases, and will not adopt because it's fresh. Late majority are cautious. They need to see solid ROI. They do not take risks and a logical approach to technology adoption, but are very cautious. Laggards are skeptical. I am different, that type of attitude. I don't need your help. They're hesitant to change, they're very complacent, and occasionally need to see personal benefit. So as we go through our session, I want everybody in the room to think about where you currently are at of your technology profile, how that applies to you and your business. Because the profile can apply to a person as well as an organization. So let's start. So let's go with some history. So Ashley, when you joined Streamline Brands, what was the current state of technology, the mindset, philosophy, et cetera, around marketing tech?
So when I joined, we had a lot of disjointed things. So we had a lot of technology, but it wasn't all speaking to each other. And so that was something that we really worked on, getting all of that to actually communicate so that we could automate things. So we had, one platform for our website, a different platform for email, a different platform for our digital ads, a different platform for, our call center, what the reps were using to make sure that they were doing outbound calls, and nothing was talking to each other. So we made a concerted effort to make sure it all speaks so that we can automate things and do things that it doesn't put work on our team, and it also doesn't put work on the franchisees. As much as we can take off their plate, the better. So we actually had a proprietary point of sale system when I started and made a decision to go the opposite way and do something off the shelf. The reason for that was to get our proprietary system where it needed to be to do everything, to all talk to each other and make that work, was going to cost us probably $3 million. We had to decide, were we going to be a tech company or were we going to be a swim school franchisor? So we opted for a swim school franchisor and used something off the shelf and then retrofitted that to work with all of our systems so now we know where everybody's at in the customer journey at all times, because that speaks to everything else. So we can send automated emails depending on, are they a tire kicker, that they made an account, but they never did anything. So we need to remind them that they want to sign up for swim lessons, so we start a drip campaign going. Is it somebody that has been enrolled before and they have, they withdrew maybe 9 months ago? We need to remind them, oh, it's that time of year you need to get back into swim lessons. So all of that stuff is now triggered. So our responsibility is just to make sure it all continues to talk to each other.
Andrew, same question for HTeaO. When you got there.
So the unique thing at HTeaO, when I got there, we were just being created, I guess. So we didn't have really any sort of preconceived technological platform. I had thankfully come from the industry, so I had seen the good and the bad from technology. My previous employer before coming to HTeaO didn't really, they were more of the lagger from your definitions there. Hadn't really fully immersed themselves in technology, and I saw how inefficient that was. So thankfully, when I came onto HTeaO, was able to have kind of the leeway to really create the technology as we needed from the development side in particular. We immediately, within the first month of really launching the franchise, said we have to get a CRM. If we don't have one, then it's going to make my job hell. And at that time, it was me, myself, and I running our department, so I needed some help there. So thankfully, we vetted out a few, have a partnership with FranConnect now, have now, I guess, for the last 5 years. It's been incredible. I think that as we've evolved over the last 5 years, getting the rest of our departments online, kind of like Ashley was saying, where we're all utilizing the same platform, whereas, we might have had the marketing team or the operations team or real estate kind of utilizing different technological platforms, which is awesome, but it was all disjointed. There was no cross collaboration. Someone was maybe doing something over here in this software and I wasn't able to see what they were talking about and vice versa. So I would say in the last year to 18 months, we've really made a concerted effort to fully immerse the entire company, utilizing FranConnect, and it's really helped. I've seen it. Thankfully, my department's been using it since day one, but I think it's been incredible to see how everyone can kind of see the whole life cycle of the franchisee going through the system. So I would encourage, and I heard this at a conference, whatever technological platform you use, just make sure that you use it. Because that was something I've seen just over the last few years. If you have it and you're paying a lot of money for it, but if everyone's not bought in and not using it, then it's just kind of a worthless, expensive piece of technology.
Yeah, so I want to revisit a couple of things that you mentioned there about later on, but we definitely want to come back to disjointed systems versus the one throat to choke type of model, having one platform for everything, or going a best of breed model. But so for Jonathan and Chris, you guys founded the business, you guys started the business, there was obviously nothing there, so you started from the ground up. So you didn't have any existing technology to work with. So how did you, what was the approach when you started looking at, when do I start implementing technology? What do I start, how do I begin?
Okay, so for us, we operated as we have the green light till we get the red light. So in the beginning, we just used Excel spreadsheets, and it was a mess. If you think about a calendar in a service, one man, one van, we'd build a calendar on one tab, and not every month has 31 days. So when we copy and paste those and screw that up, then everything was all messed up. And then we had a different tab because each franchisee had their different pricing. So then we had a different tab for database jobs booked because they wanted how many jobs we booked for. They're like, where'd that job go? And so we had a cancellation tab, and we had a reschedule tab, redo tab, zone tab. Oh, so point is then we thought real slick. So we put those Excel spreadsheets, this is before Google Sheets, on a server in our office and gave all the franchisees a link. They could download them. They're read-only. So they would make changes, and they'd think it would change at ours, but it didn't. So what I guess I'm telling you this long-winded story is that it was a real big problem because the reps had to calculate their jobs, and there would be errors. And so we had an error log form, and it was every day we were filling out these error logs. So all those problems created an opportunity. We went to look for an off-the-shelf software for our scheduling because that was our around 70 units. That's where we just couldn't handle the spreadsheets anymore. There really wasn't anything out there, so we had something custom built to what we needed. That software company. To your point, I don't recommend you guys, if people build their own, even though that's what we've done, but wasn't our plan. But that company went out of business, and so we had to buy the code. We were held hostage to buy the code, and then buy the senior engineer. And software never stops, so you're never going to be done. You're always going to have to update your code, the language, add new things. And so, there's vendors out there, I'm sure, that are always learning from all their franchisors and Zs. So I definitely, but with us, it was 70 units is when our pain point was too much. So we went out and built it. But we have had the same philosophy all the way through, and that's to always, and I think this is very important, always have one place where your data is kept. If you have two different places where your data is kept, there's going to be errors. And so you want whatever your data is put in for it to pull or push from that one spot. And that will save you a lot of headaches. And for us, we believe in specialization. So our point of our CRM is the point of all the data, but we believe in being able to connect API or SSO to the best vendors in the industry out there, and what's the best today might not be the best in 5 years. So our philosophy is have all the main data in one point in our stuff, and then we connect API to the best vendors out there. So that's kind of our story of how we got into technology, and I actually do love it, but it is terrifying, and you gotta. It's easy to get bottlenecked and not be able to keep up. So,
Chris?
Yeah. So I'm a strong believer in keeping the main thing at any point in time. When we first opened, I'll give you a funny example. Me and my wife opened the first location in Fort Lauderdale, and she was working off of Zoho Calendar, right, to book clients. And so you come in, you do a workout, we book your next 3 sessions right then and there. And I kept getting this pushback of, why don't we use MindBody? Why don't we use all these other things? And my response was, well, when you can sell enough memberships that you can't do that anymore, then we can get a CRM, right? So I'm a big believer in kind of business whack-a-mole. You have kind of top of funnel, you have leads, you have sales, right? In franchising, we have franchise sales. Now, if I can open them all, I just don't have enough sales yet, right? Until I run into a bottleneck, then I find a system, tool, or person to fix that bottleneck, and then we continue on. I agree with you 100%. If your systems don't talk and you don't have one single accurate source of information, your team will get disheveled, and you'll hurt your franchisee, not yourself, right? You hurt yourself too, but hurting the franchisee is a lot worse. So yeah, that's kind of where we started.
And that's a great point, right? And for myself, I've been selling software for over 20 years, and every time I'm speaking to potential customers, whether it was Verizon Wireless, Sprint, whoever it was, don't buy tech because it's sexy, right? It's not an Apple Watch, right? Don't buy it because it's sexy. Like, I know there's a lot of Apple users here, and you're all part of the cult, and you line up for your phones and everything else. Stick with Android. That's the future. But yeah, don't buy it until it becomes a pain point, right? Don't buy the tech. If you can manage it, whether it was Google Sheets for you guys early on, right? Then it became a pain point. You have to go find the solution. And there is, whether it's off the shelf or custom built or whatever it is. And the other valid point that you guys all brought up, it has to talk. You can go with one platform, like a franchise management system, or you can have the best of breed, but as long as those APIs are open and they can communicate, so you can share across teams. Because if that data is not being shared across teams, then your operations team doesn't know what's happening with franchise development. Franchise development isn't talking to real estate. Real estate's not talking to whoever it might be. So those are great points. Okay, so let's go to the here and now, like looking at your businesses today. How often are you looking at your current tech stack, revising it, saying, or in your point, you guys are in the software development business, right? How often are your release cycles? How often are you adding new features and adding new technologies to your tech stack?
So for us, just because you have a plan and a release plan, it doesn't usually end up working like that. For us, they call it spaghetti on spaghetti. So over the course of time, the code gets messy and you got to refactor it before you can do a release. So my suggestion, if you guys are doing your own, is to make sure that your engineer team is doing short releases, sprints, and not making the code such a big change that because when that happens, by the time you're done, it affects too many things, and it's so small little releases are the best. What else did you ask?
How often, you do your
So
releases?
we do a monthly call with our engineer team, a weekly call. And so we tried it right now. In the past, we were having a release like once a year, which is bad. But now we're doing about every 6 weeks. We're doing very small releases, so you got to prioritize. At the end of the day, there's like things you can do that make your software sexy, this or that or whatever. But at the end of the day, we prioritize what is going to make the franchisee book more revenue, right? So,
It's a great point for everyone out there. As you're looking at technology platforms, software platforms, whatever it might be, ask them what their release schedule is. How often are they doing releases? And more importantly, not only minor releases, major releases. How often are they doing? Sorry, you can't hear me again? Sorry. How often are they doing releases? You have to ask your technology vendors like how often they're doing it. I was speaking with Matt G, and we were talking last night. To your point, you need short, little snippet releases all the time. And the other thing is, when you ask for a feature, make sure it actually gets on the roadmap. Don't be shy to ask them, hey, what's your technology roadmap? I want to know what that is. I want to know that what I'm asking.
But everything's on the roadmap. They'll tell you everything's on the roadmap.
Yeah. So anyways, just another tidbit. So, and current state, Ashley, like how often are you looking at your current marketing tech stack? How often are you changing it? What's important when you're revising it?
So we have a technology committee. Is this on? Okay. We have a technology committee that is a handful of people from all different departments that touch different technology that meets monthly. And so we talk about what are all of our biggest priorities, what things do we want to happen. We went to the off-the-shelf point of sale about 1.5 years ago. So there's a lot of things that we're still trying to figure out how does it fit for our business based on what we had before and what we have now. And so the technology committee will sit down and talks about what are the different priorities, what's going to come first, what is something that, maybe can wait a little bit of time. And then we decide what does that timing look like? Do we need to make a change with one of the partners that's plugged into that? Or is there something that we can tweak to make it work for now? We don't want to make big changes all the time. One, it's painful for our team, and two, it's very painful for the franchisees. Whenever you change anything, the sky is falling, and especially technology, it's a big lift to do. So we try not to do it very often, but we're constantly looking at it.
Are franchisees part of the technology committee?
We bring big things that will impact them, we bring to our FAC.
Nice. Andrew?
The main thing that we have seen is for the updates and everything that you're getting is being aware of the updates. I think all of us, I'm sure, get way too many emails and everything, and typically when I'm receiving them from FranConnect and stuff, they might go to junk or something. They're doing a lot of very small updates, which is great. Occasionally they'll have like a large one, and they're pretty good about having like a webinar or something. I'm not good about attending those webinars. I thankfully have someone on my team that helps with that now. And so I think just knowing what updates are happening and what those updates and how they can impact you, because I've noticed some of these updates that we've seen maybe are detrimental or confusing to me, which, I'm not a technology guru, so that might be why. But utilizing them, I think in the grand scheme of things, like I said earlier, if you're using it and you're all in on it, it's going to be extremely beneficial. But making sure that you know when these updates are happening and then kind of making sure that it's actually something that you're going to want to use that'll actually help you.
Right.
And I would say also knowing about it before your franchisees do. If it's anything that impacts them, you don't want them to be the ones to tell you that there was an update and something's broken.
So Chris, for Body 20, Jonathan, they're like you said, they're a tech company that cleans carpets, is really what they are. But so for yourself, you guys didn't build your own. So if looking at it from a CEO's perspective, how often are you asking your team, hey, we're hearing pain points about this, are you getting your CTO involved? Like, how often does that happen from a leadership when you're steering the ship, trying to grow your business? Changing technology sucks sometimes. It takes a lot of time, resources, and people shy away from it and they stay complacent. So how do you manage that conversation internally?
So we have a unique org chart. I have a partner who's our CEO and I'm our president. And so We are very old school, and we don't come from franchising originally, right? This is our first franchise kind of venture. And I think a lot of times franchisors forget that they're also business owners, right? And you have to structure your business like a business owner. So biannually, we sit down and we do it in a very old school way. We pull out every transaction that goes on in each department, and we say, as far as technology goes, as far as meals go, as far as entertainment goes, you need to justify to us, to me and Greg, why you have this technology, why we're paying $2,000 a month for something, what is the value that's coming out of it. I'm a strong believer, again, in keeping the main thing. So our tech stack was really, really, truly born during COVID. We took a lot of time to sit back and say, what do we do as a franchisor? And, sure, we're in fitness, we're in personal training, but at the end of the day, I hear, as you said, you're a technology company who cleans carpets. We are a membership sales and acquisition company, and that's what the franchisee should be focused on 90% of the time. So our technology and our tech stack is meant to eliminate all the wasted time, things that you have to do as a franchisee, you have to do as a business owner, such as pay people, right? You have to pay your employees, but should it take you 5 hours every 2 weeks? No. At Body 20, it takes 15 minutes because we have 2 pieces of off-the-shelf combined with one kind of overarching BI platform built in Microsoft BI, right? That aggregates all the data. So our franchisees have, if you do the math on 5 hours every 2 weeks, that's 1,000 hours over 10 years that our franchisees can focus on driving their business, not on paying their employees, right? So that's kind of the way we look at it. You mentioned technology profiles earlier. I would say the best way to explain us is we test like an early innovator, right? We explore like an early innovator, we test like an early adopter, but we don't make decisions until we make decisions like an early majority, right? So we test in our corporate unit, then we test in 3 to 5 franchisees where we cover the cost and we, cover the economic impact if it's negative, but they have to give us back, indicators that make us understand whether it worked or not, and then we'll roll out to the network.
Right. How important is it for you guys to have, you talk to a bunch of different franchisors at conferences, but how important is it to say, well, they're using this, I have to use this also? Because that's what everybody in the market is using, so I should be using this as well. Because there's a lot of technology out there that's even not specialized for franchising that could be repurposed for your business, right? Like Power BI, right? Excel, whatever that is, right? So how important is it to have what everyone else is using?
So I think you build around your team and your process. I'll use franchise development at Body 20 for that reason. In franchise development, we have 2 guys who are incredible at presenting. They connect with people love them. So my job as president of the company is to find a system or a tool that allows them to not have to do as much follow-up, not have to do as much email, not have to do all those things because they are most valuable to me and they get the most value from us when they're on the phone or on a Zoom with somebody. So we look at things like that and we try to build around what we have. Right? We don't look at, this company's using this or this company's using this. I think the best thing for any young franchisor, and I learned this from my partner, is networking in this industry and just having connections. It's a very open industry. It's actually quite astonishing how you can talk to your competitor and they will help you. But listen to them, hear what they have to say. Don't believe that they figured it out because most people haven't, But take what they have to say and you will certainly get one really good nugget out of what you're looking for.
Yeah. And Jonathan, for you, because you guys build your own technology, your own platforms, what happens if does anybody in your organization come to you and say, hey, I was at some show and I saw this thing and it could replace a little bit what we're doing to cut your engineering costs down, or maybe can we add that? How often are you guys looking outside of other technology to try and replicate into your own?
That's a great question. So again, our philosophy is just a little bit different. We want our software to be the home base and keep it very simple. It's a calendar, but we want to connect it. For example, we have an API that we released in early this year with Voxy. We used to use Twilio and try to write which really you got to write your own text messaging code. So instead of, even though we're outsourcing, and we still want to your point, not try to do, we want to find stuff that's already done, but that API, it allows same-day cancellations. They get a text 6 months after a job, dear whatever, it automatically texts them. Nice. It's automated. We even have a button on the calendar where there's a star, and they can click the star, and it'll have a links to the franchisees' GMBs where they can click a button, and it'll text them a link to their GMB. So we that's our software, but it's connecting with another software that's doing that part because text messaging, they're the experts in text messaging. So Same with email. We have a different one with email, or even our PPC company. Everything is coming back in. And even like I would suggest everybody to, if whatever website you're on, to not get stuck on a custom platform where you can't make changes or fire the company really easily. So I would definitely suggest open source code for your website, like WordPress, because if your vendor is terrible, you can switch immediately. And even like our software, it connects into WordPress with, they have things, so our reviews push out to our website, all sorts of things. So I guess I would just say home base, and then, connect to the best things out there, because the guys that say they do it all, they're not going to do it all great.
It's fair. So for Ashley and Andrew and marketing and fran dev, there's a ton. Like if you look at CRMs, for example, there's thousands of CRMs out there, and there's a new one coming out every single day. I think I get an email at least once every 3-4 hours from a new CRM or lead generation tool that I can look at. And even in marketing, right? You're looking at PPC, SEO. There's a bunch of companies. How do you block out the noise, right? You're already with some platforms, and they may be working well, or maybe there's some pain points. But how do you block out the noise to not get distracted and stay focused?
I'd say the biggest thing that we do is, you're right, I get emails constantly and text messages constantly, and the worst thing, any supplier in the room, the very worst thing is when I get an email and it says, I have the perfect solution for you. You don't know what my problem is, so how do you know you have the perfect solution? I immediately add you to my list of people I'm never going to work with, because clearly you don't care about my business, you care about yours, and you should, but you should also care about mine if you want to be our partner. So I don't honestly look at all of those just cold emails. It's more so talking to Chris's point, like the relationships that you have, talking to other people, what they're using, what they're seeing, what they like, what they don't like. To the question of, do you have to use something that everybody uses? If everyone's using it, there's probably a reason, so you should look into it, but do your due diligence and talk to people that are actually using it. Don't just talk to the supplier themselves who's going to tell you that everything's great. Get references, and also find your own references. Obviously, when a supplier gives you somebody to talk to, it's somebody that's happy and they know it. They're giving you that person for a reason. So talk to other people that have used it before you decide to make any sort of a change. I've never worked with a vendor partner in any way, shape, or form that I haven't had multiple conversations with people that have actually worked with them every day to see not only how is their technology working, but then how is their customer service? Are they telling you the things that you need to know? Are they telling you about those releases before they do them, or are they just doing them and you get an email that everybody gets that says, oh, by the way, we did this last night? Are they thinking about the fact that they should let you know that beforehand so you can make sure that none of your connections break in the process and all of that?
I really wish there was a company out there that went out and vetted suppliers.
If only there was
right
one.
Suppliers. I wish there was only a company that existed that did that.
That'd be amazing.
Wow.
That would be awesome. You should maybe look into that.
I think maybe I should be the chief sales officer of a company just like that. I think that. Anyways, Andrew.
So this is kind of unique for us right now. We're right in the middle of kind of final negotiations with a new real estate software that we're using. Our previous one was okay, but got us to where we are today, which is awesome. But we're now at the growth where we are. We need something a little bit more robust, let's just say. I'm not going to say who because we haven't signed everything yet. But this company that we're looking at is somewhat newer. But they've been able to be very nimble. And so I've looked at all of these different ones, and a big thing for me is like, do you want to go with, like you mentioned, the cool company, or like, oh man, I'm getting all their emails, or like, it looks really cool, which is nice. But after interviewing quite a few of the different ones, I was really like, who can provide the service that we need? But more importantly, who's willing to like kind of tailor their platform to our needs, and that, in kind of where we're going through right now, was where we got to the solution that who we're going to move forward with, because they were able to really kind of hone in on saying like, hey, this is, as Ashley mentioned, like, I want to know what you need, what does HTeaO need, and how can we tailor our platform? It might be completely separate, but I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that this is going to be valued to me. And something that they mentioned that I really liked, and was kind of their final sales pitch, I guess you could say, but I don't even think they were planning on it, is they were being very honest and upfront, like, hey, you don't need that. It was like the anti-upsell And they're like, we have all of this platform and all these levels and stuff, but you don't even need this. You're not to that level. I mean, we're at 78 units right now. They're like, until you get to 100 to 200 units, this is not even going to be, I mean, it's a great thing and I could sell it to you for another 20 grand or whatnot, but it's something that's not necessary for you. So I think that transparency that they gave to us is really what kind of sealed the deal for us. And then they are working with an integration, as I had mentioned earlier, where you have the biggest thing to me is the communication between the franchisor and the franchisees. And then it looks it's very frustrating to me when the franchisor can't even communicate well throughout their entire home office. And so being able to have those API integrations between the various software so we can communicate well to then obviously push out the message to the franchisee is vitally important.
I would say too, also making sure that any technology partner that you work with actually truly understands franchising and the things that need to happen. Everyone in this room understands that. Any partner will tell you, oh, we can do that. We can, work with multi-unit. Multi-unit is different than franchising. We all know that. And you need to be able to log into a dashboard that you have a franchisor view and then there's a franchisee view. They don't need to see all the things that you need to see as a franchisor, as a franchisee, because sometimes that causes more questions, it causes problems. And then you also need to be able to see it in the view that they're seeing it. You don't want to see just what the franchisor dashboard looks like, and you don't know what the franchisee dashboard looks like. So then when they call your support teams can't help them navigate their dashboard because they don't know what it looks like. So that's something that is super important, making sure that you work with someone that truly understands it and doesn't just say, oh yeah, we can do, parent-child relationship. It's different in franchising. We all know that, but a lot of partners will tell you that they can, but they can't.
I'll take that one step further and say that you want to select technology partners that will grow as your brand is growing, right? So they got to be able to support you when you're 1 unit, 50, 75, 100. If that supplier and that technology vendor want to be a long-term partner of yours, their technology is going to match where you are in whatever stage of growth that you're in.
I think there was a really good point made earlier about hitting that kind of pain point at 70 units and you had to do something. I think, you're going to have various partners on your growth path as a franchise system. There's going to be a point where you definitively know, I have to find something that works long-term. I would say personally, focus on, getting to that point. Don't focus on being perfect beyond that point right now. You need to focus on how do I get to that 70 or that 50. We use the benchmark of 100 open units because there's such a small percentage of franchisors who get there. That was our way of institutionalizing Body 20. When we can hit 100 units, we know even if we fail, somebody will buy us and keep the system going, right? So until we got to that point where we had a clear path there, we focused on, what's good today and we can fix it later, right?
Right. So everybody talks about data. I need data. I got to do this data and whatever. There's a lot of brands out there that do a lot with data. They're hoarders. They amass a bunch of data, but then it sits in a room and they don't do anything with it. So Jonathan, for you, when you guys are working with your franchisees and you're collecting data from the field, what do you do with the data and how do you share it with your franchisees?
I think you got to digest it and get it back to them at the simplest level possible. But I think that for us, we want to use data to help drive behavior and not just have data to have data. And so when I say drive behavior, nobody wants to be last or be behind the brand average. So if your software that you're using can show you how you are as a franchisee versus the brand average, it's going to automatically make you not want to be below the brand average. So whether it be, if you can show commercial sales versus residential brand average, no one wants to be below brand average, or NPS score does a great job with that, or upsell percentage, or loyalty. There's all sorts of things, but the data that we like to show is to drive behavior. So even in our scheduling center, everybody can see what everybody makes, and it's off of how many jobs they book per hour. So it's up on the screen, and it's trust through transparency. And if you've been there longer, you don't get paid more. It's if you're better. And we try to push that same philosophy with our franchisees to their technicians. And the best that we book left to right. So, the better technician that has a better net promoter score, better upsells, and call them left, and we book left to right. So that data out there, You just want to make sure it's not just data, but it's to drive behavior. And I think giving them how they are versus the brand average on any category always helps drive the behavior in the right direction.
So marketing people love data. So I want to get your take, Ashley, on what you do with the data.
So we do a lot with it internally, but to your point, we distill it for the franchisees because you can have data overload and then they don't know what they're looking at and then they just have a ton of questions. So when I first started, we rolled something out right before I started that was these digital dashboards for every franchisee. So we connected everything to, it was like Google Data Studio and they all had their own and they were 11 pages long. And it was so much, and I started and I said, why did we do this? This is a nightmare because all it did was have everybody looked at their digital dashboard and then sent an email to our digital marketing manager and was like, why am I number 2 in Google rankings this week? Or why is my traffic coming from these locations and not these locations? And she had to answer so many questions and it just became her full-time job is answering questions of what's this data. And so I looked at it and I said, this is great data, but we need to give them like a 1 page of this. Like not 11 pages of all of this stuff. We want to know this because we want to know where's their money being spent, where are people coming from, so we can help from that perspective and look at it on our side to give them better strategy tips, but they don't need to know all that. So it was distilling all of that just to give them very specific KPIs of things they should be looking at. Also, yes, competition, making sure that they know if they're below the brand average, where they fall in the ranking. A lot of our franchisees have a competitive swimming background. Some of them are Olympians. They want to win. So when they see that they're not number 1, it pushes them to be harder so that they want to be the one that is in that first place spot.
Chris, what about you from a president's perspective looking at data?
So I look at it as every executive I've ever hired wants all the data they can possibly get. I like to think of it like this. If you were on an island and you had 5 to 10 data points that you could look at and it would tell you everything you need to know to make decisions, what are those 5 to 10 data points? And then we build them a dashboard, right? So they're going to have their own report every day that comes to them. Our director of performance is going to get them. They're going to be sales KPIs, attrition KPIs, whereas, Lisa, our CMO, is going to get a completely different dashboard, right? As president and my partner Greg as CEO, we get kind of all of it aggregated, right? But we have a lot more time on our hands to review than they do. When we go down to the franchisee, I think stack reports are incredibly important. I think it drives competition. I found that the most competitive franchisees typically tend to be the highest performing franchisees. So you want to be able to show that. We take it a step further. It's completely transparent. You see everything, how many leads, how many phone calls, how many everything for every named studio in our system. And I think, on top of that, we started with a CRM that provided a lot of data and you could pull reports. And we tried to teach franchisees how to do it. We layered a visualization tool over the top so they could see that. And then we eventually evolved to, you really just need to know your performance metrics and you need to know your expense metrics compared to everybody else and be able to benchmark it. So we use a tool called QVinci to pull it in. So if you're 20% higher in staffing, you're just paying too much. Your utilization's 20% lower, that's why you're not performing. And then we coach to that. So every month our business coaches, their job is to sit down, look at a financial model that projects out 6 months, and then do projection to actual each month and why. Like what was the actual metric that was missing?
Having franchisee scorecards, what I call are huge, right? A franchisee wants to know how they're rating, to your point, benchmarking against the system average, whether it's NPS, whether it's sales, whether it's check count, whether it's customer count, like whatever that is. So franchisee scorecards are massive. You want to share that data. Franchisees, at least in my experience, cannot digest more than 11 or 12 KPIs. That's it. So give them their top line stuff. I worked with a brand that they had their FBCs pull in a 40-slide PowerPoint to sit down with their franchisees and review all those KPIs. The franchisees stopped going to the meetings with the FBCs. They just did. So before we get to questions,
Could I add one thing real quick?
no, you go ahead.
Sorry. I think just another important thing that a lot of people skip over is if you have a retail business, right? So you have customers coming into the studio, that data is almost more important than your performance data. Like understanding what my customer likes and does not like is incredibly important. And that stuff you should start collecting as early as possible. You might not
Voice of the
action
guest.
on it, but you should start really early.
I agree. So it's a technology session. We have to talk about AI. It's a new buzzword, right? It's no longer pivot, which I'm glad we're pivoting away from. So now it's AI. So Andrew, as franchise development, are you hesitant to start adopting or looking at AI into your system? Does it scare you? You know, like what's your approach when it comes to AI?
So I'm young, but I've always had this kind of like old school mentality with like, I just want to talk to these people on the phone. We have played around with a little chat GB, and it's cool. It's very cool. It's kind of freaky. It's very smart, I will say. I think, man, that's hard to say. It's still so early. I still am the mindset of I want to be able to have that relationship or start to build that relationship. And I think at some point it's going to help us be more efficient on the initial vetting process through franchise development. We've played around with utilizing some chat features and things like that, where it's kind of like a automated chat and there's a kind of a bot, so to speak, that's talking to you. And I'm not speaking for everyone here, but I think we all know when you get that and there's just not that personal touch. When, for me, someone that's looking to invest millions of dollars into something, having the respect to pick up the phone and talk to them really means a lot to me. I think on the efficiency side of like the initial paperwork and all that stuff, I think the AI stuff is going to be incredibly helpful. But I think it's going to be unique when you actually are trying to build a relationship, because there's no way, at least that I haven't seen yet, that some sort of digital being can, create a relationship like we're having in this room right now in a discussion.
That's fair. Anybody else want to add about the AI?
Yeah, I'll add it. So sometimes you were talking about what the early adopters. What's before that? Early adopters.
Early adopters would be the innovators.
The innovator. So sometimes you don't want to be an innovator because you might get it right, but we were going back years back, right before COVID. Chatbots was like the big talk, right? So we went to all these conferences, learned about chatbots. So we put that on our website because 30% of our jobs book online scheduling. So we were like, what percentage is going to want to be chat? So we tried to do that, and it was working. We were booking some jobs through our chat. But what I'd say, the reason why I'm wanting to bring this up is everyone talks about SEO, right? We want to rank, but CRO is really, really important. And if you're not looking at your conversion on your website and creating a funnel, there's tools like Amplitude or Lucky Orange that helps you know where the customer's falling off. Then you wouldn't know to stop the chatbot. We named it Bubbles. It was really cool, but we weren't converting. That when they were chatting with them, we weren't convert. We had a lower conversion rate than if they started their online scheduler. So while it was cool, and on Discovery Day we were like, we got this chatbot Bubbles. They're like, oh, that's awesome. You're into AI. It wasn't converting, so we got rid of it. Now it doesn't mean we won't bring it back someday. But what we are using AI for is with our PPC program. It makes a lot of changes more than a manual person could. So stuff like that, or writing content. We still have content writers, content's king, but the AI can help. You can give it parameters of what to write contents on, blogs, keywords, that type of thing. And then you shouldn't just leave it like that. Then your content writers can go edit it a little bit, this or that. And you make sure you use, if you're doing that, make sure you're using some type of software that will search what it's writing to make sure it's not already written out there on the web. And so for us, just be careful with it, but you got to use it. But at the end of the day, it's still about conversion.
Yeah, great advice.
Yeah, to your point, it's use it where it makes sense for your business, and then make sure it still sounds like your business. So your content writers going in and making sure that it's in your brand voice and not in whatever brand voice they wrote it in if you're using it for content. We use it in a couple different ways. So we've been using it in our digital program for the last 2 years. And it's been hugely successful because, to your point, if there was a team of people that was trying to optimize daily, by the minute, by the hour, that would be a massive team of people. We don't need to do that because we work with Ularity, and it optimizes for each location, what they're doing, what's being served up the most, and not only served up the most, but what's actually getting those conversions. That's what it's optimizing for. So it's not just optimizing for eyeballs, it's optimizing for that conversion rate, because that's what is the most important thing. We use it a little bit for some content things, but it's more for like brainstorming. So if we're writing a blog about something, it's what other things are we missing that we should be talking about? What is mom thinking right now? What should we be having a blog focused on? So we use it more from that perspective than actually doing the the writing. And then there's other tools and things that you can use that can record meetings and things like that we've played around with, but haven't been super helpful yet, but I think it will get there. And it's one of those things where you have to figure out what are the needs of your business that it can help with to help that efficiency, and not just decide, oh, well, everyone's talking about AI, so I have to do it.
You can to keep your voice of how your story, how your writing is on your website, you can paste what you've written before in there and then have it rewrite it for maybe a different city page, and it keeps the same, it learns how you write. So instead of just starting from scratch, give it what you've already done in the past, and it will learn of how it'll write similar.
Chris?
So today we look at, I think there's a conversation that you have to have in the workplace with your employees. There's a lot of mid-level employees who are afraid that this is going to take away. If you're the content writer for a company, you're concerned. The way that we've tried to structure it and phrase it is, we believe that that's going to get us more production out of an employee. So instead of being afraid that it's going to take your job, you should be excited that you can now prompt something. You can learn how to prompt ChatGPT. I use, like at Body 20, unless it's going to create efficiencies and allow people to do more of what they're good at, we don't really pay attention. So for instance, I have to be on a lot of meetings every week. I have a lot of project work I could do if I wasn't on the meetings. I use Otter AI to track my, it logs on for me, it records, it gives me like a transcribed version of the meeting and bullet points, and I can very easily understand what happened in the meeting but not have to be there, right? And so that's what we use it for today. But I do think just the caution I would have is, make sure your employees know that you're not trying to replace them so they don't freak out. Make sure they know, they know that you just think it can make them more productive. And then I would also say, just a little contrary is, if you're a young franchisor, this could be your advantage. If you're a large franchisor, this could be your downfall. So make sure that you're not like, you have 200 units open, you're trying to pop in AI all over in every retail location. But if you have 5 and you have the trust of your franchisees and you've always done well by them, they're going to help you, build that tool and give you the feedback you need, and that could be your differentiator from everybody else.
To your point on making sure you communicate, my content writer, he's worked for us for 14 years. He started in the call center. We believe in promoting from within. However, I had that conversation with him because he was resistant of using it because I thought he was going to replace his job. And once he realized, hey, this isn't going to replace your job, this is going to make your job easier and you're going to get more productive and we're going to be able to do some newer, funner things and think outside the box. And once I got that and he embraced it, and I have him do as many of the webinars as he can of how to use this stuff and for best practices, and how he's liking it and it's making it easier. You can even pop in your operations manual or training manuals, and it literally will help you rewrite it in a way that it does. There's a lot of cool tools. You still got to be involved with it, but just make sure you communicate to your staff, this isn't going to replace you, but this is going to make you more efficient. And if we're all more efficient, it gives everyone an opportunity to make more money. And,
Also, on the point of communicating, make sure you're also communicating what you're doing to your franchisees, because we're not the only ones that are hearing ChatGPT every 5 seconds. And so franchisees are, and then they're thinking, okay, well, what can I do with this? And then they're trying to get creative. So as much as you want some creativity, you don't want them to just take it and run with it. We had a franchisee that the day after he saw it on Good Morning America or something, sent me an email, and he's like, I put into ChatGPT, what is the best swim school? And it did not come back and say, Safe Splash is the best swim school. Why is that? Did we miss something? And sent it to me, and also sent it to our COO. And then he replies to me, and he's like, did we mess something up? Are we missing something? I'm like, this literally started yesterday. Everyone needs to take a breath. We're going to figure out how to use it. And also, when you put in Google, what is the best swim school ever? Does it give you an answer that says any swim school? No, that's not how it works. Everyone needs to calm down. Here's what we're doing and here's what we're trying. Make sure that you just communicate to them the things that you're trying to do and that you're actually paying attention to it, so that they don't get focused on that shiny thing and they just run their business and trust that you're doing what you need to do to make it easier for them.
And that goes back to the very beginning on what technology adoption is, right? It's adopting technology or things that are going to help you strategically grow your business and help you in your job function. So if ChatGPT or AI or whatever variation of it is what you want to use, then use it. But the people that are using it have to realize that, to your point, in your content writer's case, your job is not going to be the same anymore. Maybe you're not going to be as creative on the content writing, but now you're going to be doing validation, writing it in your voice, right, or in the brand's voice versus, becoming original, right? So it can be used to your advantage, and you should use it to your advantage. So we're going to go to questions soon, but I want one takeaway from everybody on the panel that everybody could take back. So I'll go first. So I believe in like the 5 W's and an H, right? When it comes to technology. Why do you need it? Who is going to be using it, or where will it be deployed? What is it going to be? When will we need it? And then how are we going to use it? If you can answer those questions before you make a technology investment, then you've done your due diligence as a brand and as anybody buying the technology. You have to be able to answer those, whether it's to a president, a CEO, your CMO, whoever it is, if you want to make that buy, right? So Jonathan, go first. One key takeaway. Only one.
No pressure.
I'm going to go second.
I'll go. Okay. Know the problem you're solving for before you go and try and find a solution. Don't just chase the shiny thing and then you have this thing and you don't have a way to use it and it's not going to help you. So know your problem you're solving for and then get the right stakeholders involved in the process so that you don't leave something out. Don't work in a silo. Like, don't pick something and say, okay, I have this marketing problem, here's a solution, and not think about how that's going to affect your operations team, your development team, your franchisees, all of that.
He's now third.
So I think it's, where I started, which is you have to, the most successful businesses are the ones that understand what they are the best at. So use technology to allow you to spend more time on the thing you're best at. And whenever you're, giving that piece of technology, especially to a franchisee, make sure that your presentation is all about how it's going to make them more efficient or them more money, not what it does for you.
Right.
I think similar to that, Chris, my idea with technology is how's it going to make you more efficient and more productive? And once you've kind of realized, okay, by adding this piece of technology or this platform, I can now do 2 people's job or 3 people's job. That was the mindset, as I mentioned at the very beginning, when it was just me. Like, I have to have something that is going to help me. And I think, kind of like Ashley was saying, there's lots of shiny objects out there, but find the one that works best for you. And everyone in here has a different industry, and there's not just one size fits all off the shelf deal, but find something that actually works for your brand and that you like. Right. Because you're gonna have to embrace it and really be passionate and take charge of it to be able to get its full use.
Now you have to go.
I did. Yeah, no question. So I think for me, I just want to share something that could be the most beneficial for you guys. And so that would be some of the pain points and hard times that we've had. So I would just say, again, I'm just going to say some things I've said before, but open source code for your website. Be on open source so don't get stuck. And then when it comes to technology, I would say speed through systems. So the point of improving technology is not to make it more complicated, or you don't want your franchisees paralysis by analysis, like looking at all these dashboards. Simplify it the best you can with the KPI dashboards, like a cockpit in an airplane where they can see really easily the health of their business. We're building a room in our office right now where you can walk in and I can see the phone system hold time, all that type of stuff. I could see how many reviews we're getting across the country. I can see the health of the upsell, like all the different NPS score. Like you want to just make sure it makes a difference and make sure it speeds things up, not slows it down.
All right, questions. Red's got a question. Do we need a mic?
We're all excited about market technology. There's so much cool stuff going on.
So we do. It's a little bit of both. If it's for Body 20, if it is going to benefit me as a franchisor, like QVinci, for instance, it's pulling up all the data so I can get real clear data when I file my item 19, my item 7. I'm going to pay for that. If it's something that directly affects your business, you're going to pay for it inside of our tech stack. And we have a software and technology fee that does that.
We also have a technology fee that everybody pays, so that is our tech fund. Similarly, some things come out of royalties based on if it's something for our team only, and then all the marketing stuff mostly comes out of the marketing fund.
Similar, the tech fee, we've kind of have it split where is it a system-wide deal, where is it going to affect directly the franchise level and the franchisees? That'll come through the technology fee. If it's something just home office is using for efficiencies like we've been talking about, then we're just actually have that in my portion of my budget to pay for it that way.
There's been years we've way overspent we do national advertising technology fees. So we combine it because at this point in the game, technology can be it's all kind of mixed. So instead of having two separate funds, we call it a national advertising / technology fee. And there's been years we've way overspent that. And so at the end of the day, you just got to test and retest and track it and then use data set to change the mindset.
Don't be shy to charge a technology fee. And don't think it's got to be $100, $200. Charge $5, charge $1,000. As long as you're giving it back to the franchisees, whether you're implementing a new POS, and you could say, hey, you don't have to cover 100% of this cost. We're going to help supplement that from the technology fund or whatever that is. So charge what you think is a fair amount at the time of your growth, and then make it higher as you start to grow. Any other questions? Yes.
So KPIs, NPS obviously is up there. Sales per hour is a big one. A lot of franchisees, they think that they're charging a lot, but what they're charging per hour is not a lot. So their labor percentage is all out of whack. So being more efficient or raising your prices, either way, it gets you there. So sales per hour, I would say, I'm sure you guys have other ones. NPS score, just.
Yeah, so this is kind of unique with that. We have 11 KPIs. And every other week, we have what's called a profit mastery session that we open up, and it's corporate discussion from our 5 corporate locations, but we invite all of our franchise partners to attend, and going through literally every other week. We just had one this Wednesday before I came out here. All 11 of the KPIs. We're on the retail brand, so a lot of it's based on time at window, cost of goods, labor percentage, things like that. But just reiterating to through our corporate store entity, but to all of our franchisees, hey, we've been doing this for 10 years, but we're going through these every single week and just coaching them to know their numbers. I think has been helpful.
So we have we have like a daily KPI set that goes out. That's going to be 5 indicators for top line, and then it's going to be 1 indicator for bottom line, which is utilization. And then monthly, we do a much more in-depth meeting with that franchisee with their actual financial model. So I think you want something that is actually going to affect change, which is we're membership sales. So how many leads did you have? How many of those leads showed up for a demo? How many of those signed? How many canceled, right? That's all you need to know on the top line side. On the bottom line, it's like 50% of our expense is staff, so we want to make sure that if your staff is on site, it's being utilized, right? So we do a utilization tracker for bottom line, and then we do, again, every month we do a benchmark on their actual projected versus actual.
Similar to Chris, utilization for labor is huge. We are in the people business. We have swim instructors, so that is our product. So making sure that they're utilizing that the employees' time and the time that they have in the pool efficiently. Also, customer acquisition cost and lifetime value, being membership-based, that helps a lot from a marketing perspective. I can say if your customer acquisition cost is $30 and then they're going to stay with you for 18 months and you're going to end up getting $3,500, why would you not keep spending that $30? So that's something that's important. And then also price per spot. So we have, some people do group lessons. We also have private lessons, semi-private lessons. So understanding what they're charging per each person. So obviously if you have a private lesson, you want to make that cost the same, that you're going to make the same amount of money as if you had 4 kids in the pool at the same time. So they need to understand that to make sure that their bottom line balances.
All right, I think Dad over here is giving me the hook, so I think we're done. So thank you everybody for taking the time to listen to us. Appreciate it. If anybody has any follow-up questions or whatever, feel free to approach us in the room. We're here.